So far, we've seen one way of printing dates, but we actually have a lot more influence on their format, and we can also parse dates. Formatting a date means converting a date object to a string representation, while parsing a date means the opposite, converting a string representation to a date object. The Java Date and Time API provides several classes for formatting and parsing dates. We'll be using the datetime formatter and the datetime formatter builder. The datetime formatter allows you to specify a custom pattern for formatting and parsing dates and times. The datetime formatter builder allows you to build a datetime formatter object using a Fluent API. We'll be using the Java time format package for this. So let's move over to IntelliJ and see how you might use the datetime formatter to format and parse a date. As you can see, I have two dates. One is a local date time called now, and the other one is a local date. I'm going to format the dates with a custom pattern. And here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to say datetime formatter and import it from the Java time format package. Call GTF. Then I'm going to say datetime formatter and I'll go off pattern. And then I can specify the pattern. And this pattern is something that you need to know. You can find this in the Java documentation actually. I'll show you that in a second. But for now, trust me when I say that uppercase M means month, lowercase d means date, and lowercase y means year. So to write it like this, I can go ahead and format my date like this. So I'm going to print the result and I'm going to say dtf.format and I'm going to specify my now in there. And I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to say dtf format and then I'm going to specify my today in there. All right, let's run this. And as you can see, both dates are now specified the way I told it to. First one is using 2 digits, second one is using 2 digits, and the last one is using 4 digits. So what happens if I add more months? Well, it's actually going to create a word, or in this case, a short one. So let me just update this a little bit so you can see what is happening when I do this, and I will run this again. And as you can see, I mean, this is a very ugly format. Let's not deny that. But as you can see, it's now using the short word for the month. So instead of having 01, it's now having Jan. And then the date is 29. That remains unchanged. But I removed 2 Y's to represent the year. So now I only get 23 instead of 2023. All right, so maybe you want to get the full month. You would add yet another one in there. And maybe you also want to get a date. And if you don't want to get the leading 0, you're only going to insert 1D. In my case, it will still show 29. And as you can see now, it says January 29, 23. All right, so that's roughly how to do that. Let me now show you where you can find all the letters that you can use. And here you can see all the letters that you can use. So, for example, I can tell that the lowercase h would be hour, and lowercase m would be minute, lowercase s would be seconds in a minute, and then uppercase s would be milliseconds, etc. So there's a bunch of numbers you can use. And knowing where to find this will make sure that you can create your custom datetime format patterns. So what's even cooler is that we can actually also convert a certain string back to a date. So let's use the pattern that I've just shown you with the month fully written out, then the day and then the year. Okay, so what I could do, I could actually go ahead and parse a string like that and convert it back to a date. So let's go ahead and create a local date called LD. And then I'm not going to say local date of here, but instead I'm going to say local date parse. And in here, I can then specify the sequence that I want to parse, and optional as the second argument, the datetime formatter that applies. So what I'm going to use here is the one that I just specified. So it's a very weird and ugly one to actually prove you that this works. So I'm just going to say 20 of, well, let's go with 21 as the year. But in order for this to work, I will have to add the date time formatter. Otherwise, it cannot make sense of a weird string like this. But since we have a formatter in place, this should be no problem. Alright, let's go ahead and print this. And as you'll see, it is not using our new format, it's just using the default format here. And as you can see, it created the year 2021, second month, and then February the 20th. So the last one is 20. Yours might look different, it depends on your system. We have seen now that we can use the formatter and then the format method on it and then the date to get the string representation. Well, we can also go ahead and grab the dates and use the format method and then specify the input formatter to get that actual result in that string format back. So this time I'm going to use one of the built-in ones. So in this case, I'm going to go with ISO and then let's go with something special. Week date. All right. And now I'm going to run it and you will see the results. It is going to be printing 2021 week 07 6. So that means it's the 7th week of the year and then the 6th day of that week. All right, one last thing. And that's the datetime formatter builder class. This class can be actually used to create the datetime formatters. And it is actually quite a nice way of creating a formatter. So, for example, if I want to go ahead and create a datetime formatter builder like this, DTFB, I would go ahead and just create a new instance of this one. And then I can go ahead and create a new datetime formatter using my builder. For example, I could start with a literal. I can go ahead and say append literal, and then I could do something like this. The date is. And then in here, I can go ahead and change all the options I'm having for my formatter. So I could, for example, say append value, and then do something like this, chrono field, and then, well, let's go with the day of the month. And then after that, we can go ahead and specify something like append value and use the actual month. There we go. And now I actually have some red squigglies because I have a datetime formatter already. So I'm going to make this 1. And as you can see, after that, you get a whole lot of red squigglies. And that's because I'm forgetting one very important method here. And that's that I need to convert my builder object to the formatter. And I do this with the toFormatter methods. All right. Let's now go ahead and use this datetime formatter. And you can see I can use it exactly like the other one that I've been using already. So we're going to grab our local date that I created. And I'm going to say format, and I'm going to do so with DTF1. And then you will see the result. And now it's going to say the date is 22. And that might look weird because it says 202 actually. And that's because I did not specify anything in the middle. So I just said append to value, append to value. So if I want to get something nice in there, I could, for example, do something like append literal and then just put a slash in there. And this would actually give me somewhat nicer look and feel, saying 20/2. So that is how we can use the datetime formatter builder. And this can actually be nice to create longer types of datetime formatter with actually some sentences in there, because it's quite easy to make a hiccup, and this is breaking it down in rather nice parts. Also, not having to use the m's, the uppercase m's, lowercase m's, etc. makes it less prone to errors. So these are the basics of parsing and formatting dates, and you can do quite complex things. But it's typically just a combination of the basics that we've just shown. You'll come across these when working with dates and times in the wild. The next topic is very exciting. We're going to be talking about OOP. but you should probably take some time to work with dates and times first.